Well, let's go now to our focus report, which takes us to Iraq, where last September the Kurdish Regional Government sparked controversy when it went ahead with a unilateral independence referendum. This despite fierce opposition from Baghdad and the international community. In what Iraqi central authorities perceived as a provocation, the referendum included disputed areas like the oil-rich region of Kirkuk, claimed by both Erbil and Baghdad. Well, just 3 weeks after the ballot that resulted in a resounding victory for independence, Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi deployed the army and Iranian-backed Shia militia to reclaim disputed areas held by Kurdish Peshmerga fighters since 2014. Now, as Iraqi forces advanced on the multi-ethnic city of Kirkuk and surrounding areas, many Kurds fled amid reports of kidnappings and harassment. Our correspondents Oriane Verdier and Simone Fulton take a look at where the situation stands today.
Order and stability seem to have returned to Kirkuk. In October last year, Iraqi forces retook this contested city from Kurdish authorities. Their sudden advance raised fears of a new war between Baghdad and Erbil, prompting thousands of civilians, especially Kurds, to flee north. Today, Captain Balir of the local police insists that all members of Kirkuk's different ethno-religious groups are safe.
Of course, many Kurdish families have left, but once they realize there's nothing against them, some have returned. Others, though, have remained outside of the city. We ask all the citizens of Kirkuk to return to Kirkuk because the situation is stable and there's no danger to any family from any part of the security apparatus.
Despite such assurances, Captain Balir doesn't deem Kirkuk safe enough for his own family, who live in the Kurdish capital Erbil. Since October, the local police receive orders from the Iraqi special forces to secure the city, inhabited by Kurds, Arabs and Turkmen. We wanted to find out how these different communities feel about the transfer of power. We first head to an Arab Sunni neighborhood. This young man didn't appreciate the Kurdish drive for independence and prefers living under Iraqi rule.
They want a country for themselves. Such a thing would devalue our Iraq. I'm Iraqi and it's difficult. The country would change, and in their new country, I'd be a foreigner. Who would I become then?
Omar's mother, Sabiha, doesn't like talking about politics. She wants services and security for her family, things that neither the Iraqi nor the Kurdish government have delivered.
They said the electricity would come back by now, but we haven't seen it. But there are still power cuts. Nothing's changed. All we want is security and stability. We want to be able to go to the market, for example, go to the doctor, without being afraid, that there are no explosions, that nothing happens.
Even though many Arab Sunnis don't trust the Shia-led government in Baghdad, they hope the new administration will bring respite from frequent harassment by Kurdish authorities.
During Kurdish rule, when I wanted to enter the city from outside, I had to prove that I was a resident here. That proof of residency, you can't get it for free. You have to pay bribes. It was exhausting. They would chase me away. They would say, "Are you Arab? We won't give you a residency. Go away."
But just as Arabs in Kirkuk suffered at the hands of Kurdish authorities, Kirkuk's Kurds today live in fear of Shia-led security forces, especially a paramilitary force called Hashd al-Shabi. The governor of Kirkuk is aware of these tensions and has tried to curtail the presence of the militia inside the city.
We asked them to leave because Hashd al-Shabi is a fragmented force. And because of that, it's difficult to attribute responsibility when violations or errors are committed.
Yet the governor admits he has limited power over the Iranian-backed militia. Even a task as simple as removing controversial Shia banners has proven difficult.
This matter needs time. When we arrived in Kirkuk, we asked that these banners be removed. But as you know, such an order needs to come from the leaders of these forces.
The government's efforts have not proven enough to regain trust of the Kurdish population. Many Kurds are afraid to speak out on camera, so we leave the city and head to mountains deep inside Iraqi Kurdistan. Shireen and her family sought shelter in this camp for displaced when Iraqi troops marched on Kirkuk. When her two sons, both members of the Kurdish Peshmerga forces, returned to Kirkuk early November, they were detained. She hasn't seen them since.
They came for everyone, not just us, but as a family of 5 Peshmergas, we were particularly targeted. Right now, I can't return to Kirkuk. My house and my garden were ransacked. They even tore down the walls. They said there are 5 Peshmerga in this house. Go there and seek revenge.
Displaced on her own land, Shireen's dream of Kurdish independence has all but vanished.
Maybe it would have been better not to go ahead with the referendum, but they tell you to vote, so what can you do? If you don't vote, they'll call you a coward. They'll say, how come your son's a Peshmerga, but you're not supporting independence? We have no choice but to vote yes.
Shireen is angry at Kurdistan's leaders for pushing ahead with the referendum at the expense of the Kurdish population.
It's only the children of the poor people who suffer. Look at the children of Talabani, how well they're doing. It's the same for the children of Barzani.
Many of Kirkuk's inhabitants pride themselves on their long history of diversity. They blame politicians and regional powers for creating intercommunal rifts to advance their own agenda and to get their hands on Kirkuk's oil. All the citizens want is a good government, one that will provide electricity, jobs and security for everyone, regardless of their faith or ethnicity.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined in the studio by my guest, security and conflict expert Julien Théron. Hello, thank you for being with us. The Kurdish authorities gambled and clearly lost. Where has this defeat left them?
Well, at the origin it was not a gamble for independence, but it was more a mean of pressure on Baghdad to enter into talks about the beginning of the oil, the territorial question, because the Peshmerga advanced against ISIS beyond actually Kurdish territory in Mosul and in Kirkuk. But also about the Kurdish Regional Government power in Baghdad. But like Baghdad didn't want that much to talk, actually things went on and the referendum was finally organized, and actually like they are more or less autonomous since 20 years, well, it went on and the yes won, and with the consequences we know.
So are they doing enough now to respond to the consequences, as you mentioned, and as we saw in that report, of that defeat?
Well, the Kurdistan situation is a little bit harsh nowadays because Masoud Barzani, the president, stayed in some political structures but left actually the main role in at the head of KRG. Now it goes to his nephew, Neshivan Barzani, trying to get the situation stable, but the KRG actually lost a lot of territory in Kirkuk at their expense because of the Iraqi army and Shia militia coming in the district.
And tell us more about the Shia militia.
Yeah, well, they are coming from different historical origins. Some were actually more or less already having their core in the Iran-Iraq war. Some others have been created after the US and British intervention in 2003. And some actually were created from 2014 at the call of the Marja al-Sistani, who actually asked for the population to mobilize. Their name in Arabic is the popular mobilization, Hashd al-Shabi, meaning that it's a part thanks to them that ISIS didn't take Baghdad actually. But now like they are very linked to Iran, to the Revolutionary Guards. They are a part of Iranian game in the region, and they seize territory. It's what we see in the report, right? With the flags and even the security officials saying that it's very harsh to identify the groups, and there's a lot of groups. And guess what they are planning now? They plan to enter politics.
Well, they're planning to enter politics at a time where Baghdad is preparing for elections. How much has this bolstered the central authorities ahead of that poll?
Well, that's complicated, actually, because we have several Shia-dominated forces already, some pretty moderate, like the Prime Minister Hadi al-Abadi, some more radical, like Nour al-Maliki, the former Prime Minister. You remember he went harsh on the Sunni population, and that's this time where the ISIS actually came in. And but, for instance, Hadi al-Amiri, the head of the famous Badr Brigade from the Shia militia, actually decided to create his own party called Fath for the conquest. So we understand now that now it's not the time of military conquest, but of political conquest, and of course of these elections where the Sunni are not ready because of post-ISIS situation. Well, from these elections will come what is becoming as a government on the field, including on Kirkuk.
Thank you very much for having spoken to us, Julien Théron. Well, that wraps up this edition live from Paris. Stay tuned. We'll have a full news update for you at the top of the hour.